Brian Malow is not your typical comedian. While his impressive credits include appearances with Craig Ferguson, Dennis Miller, and Mitch Hedberg, the late great, he's also appeared in places like Tech TV, the National Academy of Sciences, and the Discovery Channel. What's unique about Brian is that he's a comedian whose humor comes from science. And the science comedian, as he's known, is so respected by his peers that NASA invited him to hang with Stephen Hawking last week. This week you can catch Brian at the Mainstage Comedy and Music Club with 2 shows tonight, 2 tomorrow. Brian Malow, welcome to the Bob Rivers Show. Hi.
Hey, it's great to be here.
You've got a science-sounding voice, too.
Do I? What have I done? I have no perspective on my voice. I've just always been told that it's unusual.
It is.
But it's not to me. It's
just
when you're hanging with guys like Stephen Hawking, I mean, you sound really
like
who's to
a
say
phone
what's
sex
unusual?
operator compared to Stephen Hawking.
So you said to me that this past couple of weeks has been the most exhilarating, most exciting of your entire career.
I did say something to that effect. Yes, it's true. I just came from 2 trips to Washington, D.C. On April 10th, just a couple weeks ago, I appeared at the Marion Koshland Science Museum of the National Academy of Sciences. It's a small science museum where I was doing my 3rd annual show that was a science comedy show. Last year, the first year I did sort of a general science comedy show. Then they asked me if I could do a show on infectious disease because that was their new
This is a thrill for you.
Yeah, well, here's the
And
thrill.
a funny topic in general.
Well, infectious disease, that's so obvious.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, anyone would have plenty to say that's funny about that. But for this past show, I created a brand new show called The Final Frontier, with a question mark, The Final Frontier. And I wrote a bunch of material about various frontiers of science, and I immersed myself in all these different science disciplines. I've read a lot, and then I tried to synthesize it into something that was interesting and funny. At first, I just thought it was going to be a bunch of jokes on these topics, but I ended up making it into something else, and it turned out there were people from NASA at the show, and part of the show was a big pro-space program, manned space program diatribe about how, of course, we're going to go out into space. And I said some really positive things about NASA, and there were NASA people in the audience, and they liked me.
So they were buying your comedy as reality.
Yeah, it's it's a really interesting thing. Like the audience that comes, some of them are just people like us that are just enthusiasts. And then there's a lot of science professionals and scientists, there's physicists. And it's very funny because we'll do Q&A afterwards. And I do feel a little odd when they're asking me questions and I'm giving like authoritative answers. But I also have that other restriction if I have to be funny.
Yes, let's focus on that for a second.
Okay.
What are some of your wild, because you end up talking seriously about this stuff afterwards, what are some of your wild theories that you use on stage?
My wild theories. Okay, well, I mean, there are some things that I've always discussed even in comedy clubs. Like, I noticed a long time ago, whenever my mother would lose weight, my father would gain weight. And when my dad lost weight, my mom gained weight. It was like the conservation of mass within our family. And I had a theory that you never actually lose weight. You just give it to somebody else. Fat can be neither created nor destroyed. It's one of the basic laws of the universe. If you're going to live here, you got to know the laws.
That's right. What about, because you were talking, you actually met Stephen Hawking recently, right?
Yeah, you know, what happened is I met these NASA people, and I had talked about Hawking in my act, and I talked about NASA, and they asked me if I would like to submit a question. Hawking was coming to just this past Monday give a very special presentation.
And he commented on alien life. And
He
all
actually
kinds of
said he hedged. He gave the probability of us being alone versus what aliens would be like if we weren't alone in the universe. What's your theory?
I was at his lecture.
You were there.
This past Monday. Yeah, that's what they invited me to attend this. It was a very exclusive invitation only, and I was so excited to be there. I believe, of course, that the universe is so big. Of course, there's life out there, and whether it's it seems like there would have to be some intelligent life out there as well. What the gist of his speech was, it was called "Why We Should Go into Space," and really, for the past couple of years, he's been a big proponent of us getting off the Earth. That it's important for us to make some strides and not be restricted here. It kind of makes you scared. You're like, does Stephen Hawking know something? Like
that we don't know.
Yeah, is he not telling us that there's an asteroid coming this way? You know, but And the idea is anything could happen here. Ask the dinosaurs, right?
Ask the dinosaurs. Wait a
Oh,
minute, let me
that's
think
right.
about that. Wait a minute, that poses a problem.
Yeah, it does. That's because they were a victim of that.
We can
And
ask their fossils. Yeah.
Right. There's global warming, there's viruses, and we really shouldn't have all our eggs in one basket. Literally, all our eggs
In one basket.
ladies,
All
in
our.
this one basket.
Did you hear that? Eggs. Play the ticking clock. She'll leave.
So,
This is how. No, this is how we get Casey to respond to eggs.
Oh my God, I need sperm.
exactly. I always thought it would be fascinating to.
It's getting. This is getting chronic, by the way.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
serious.
Casey, I always thought it would be fascinating to see my own sperm under a microscope, but now that I told them, none of my scientist friends will let me borrow their microscope. So I shouldn't have opened my mouth. But Hawking's been saying that, and that's an interesting concern because something could happen, something could drive us to extinction. Hell, we don't even need a ride. We'll probably drive ourselves. At the rate we're going, we have the vehicle. We're pointed in the right direction. But
Towards it. Now, do you believe that? Do you believe that man is really destroying this planet, or that global warming is a natural phenomenon and it's just happening?
I am concerned. Absolutely. We're trashing the planet, and we don't even have space travel. That's the problem. First perfect interstellar flight, then soil.
Then
the
leave a
planet.
dirty campsite.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what I think is funny is that we treat the Earth like the Who would treat a hotel room.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to preach, brothers and sisters, but I think we do need to be concerned about this. I think we definitely have had an effect. I mean, just think about it. For 100 years or more, all the carbon that we've spewed into the atmosphere, it's a concern. And there are so many other options for renewable energy sources. Why don't we just start pursuing them seriously?
Are you married?
I am not married. I'm in a relationship that will probably end in marriage.
Sorry. God. How do you stay positive?
There is
I'm
no
an
positive.
optimist.
There is no negative, right?
yeah.
Once that happens.
See, now, that was the problem with my parents. They had a very unstable relationship because it's hard to form a bond when you're both negative.
Hi-yo.
Thank you. That's a chemistry joke.
Tell us about your girlfriend.
My girlfriend is, I'll tell you, to put it in this context, my ex-girlfriend was really short. And in fact, the first time I saw her, I thought she was farther away than she actually was. And my current girlfriend, she's beautiful and she's smart and funny. We are very much on the same wavelength. And I'm not a very tall guy. She's about 3 or 4 inches taller than me. And if she wears heels, she just towers over me. And I just know that when we walk into places that she's so striking and people look at me like, how did he land her, And I think that people tend to look at us and go, that guy is either really wealthy or very good in bed. And the people that know me know that I'm not wealthy.
Right.
Where's my rim shot?
Sorry,
I'm sorry, I got accustomed to it like Pavlov's dog.
I know, I wanted you to dangle there, but the Pavlov dog reference is perfect. Now, you plan to have children, and if you're a scientist, are there things you can do to make sure that your children come out the way you want? Are there...
You mean genetic tampering?
Genetic tampering, that sort of thing?
I don't, I'm not sure. I don't know if we're going to end up having children or not. Hard to say. But I mean, we have all the tools, but silence. I don't know if we will, but no, I don't know. I think our best tools for that sort of thing are our brains and
Is that what
education.
What attracted her to you? Was your mind? Do you think? Is she a big fan of science, or how?
Yeah, we met through the comedy scene basically in San Francisco. She was actually from out of town, but we.
It wasn't phone sex, I can tell you that.
No. and yeah, she's a great writer and has a great sense of humor, and she liked my sense of humor, and we have so many things in common.
A couple of questions. Science versus religion. Can they both be compatible in your world, or is Darwin right and creationists wrong?
Well, Darwin is right. And creationists are wrong. That's true. I guess there could be a place for religion. But it's not in science classes. It has nothing to do with science. It has nothing to do with
they're
science.
trying to teach it as intelligent design. In other words, to say
Right.
if you're going to be a scientist, you have to admit that you haven't proven the lack of existence of an intelligent design.
Right. You can't. That's something you can't prove. The lack of that
Right,
exists.
but
can't
you have
really
to
do that.
admit it, don't you, as a scientist?
Scientists do. Scientists admit it. But the thing is, there is such overwhelming
They should admit it in
evidence.
school. while they say prayers and speak the national anthem. Should they?
Right.
Is that what you believe?